All right, welcome to the fourth and final review of the evening. Up this time is a game called Alien Rampage. So, I guess a bit of backstory here because if you're looking at the footage, you might notice a thing missing, and that's a provided by label because this is the rare game that wasn't provided by anyone, which usually means this is a stopgap game. And indeed, that is the case. Originally had a much different game slated to review this week. Turns out I scrapped that because they. Okay, so what happened is they gave me a pre-release code, but it was for a prologue version. This is a thing that's becoming more and more common. Um, Prologue versions or prologue slices of things, and I'm getting codes for prologue versions that are out. I don't understand that at all. Like, I mean, this happened this past week. Like, I got a prologue code, and I'm like, okay, the game's out, and this was and this was actually a thing that was sent to me versus a like some of these codes come from code sites. Like they sent me a code for a game or a game representation that is out. Like, and I could just go on my own and get. I don't understand why that happened, but did lead me to booking the developer on the program, so that worked out. Anyway, point is, it would have cost me $20 to unlock the full version of the game. That was not happening, especially since the game in question was pretty thoroughly, solidly okay. Like, it wasn't awful or anything, but it didn't make me want to play more of it. So, usually what I do there is I'll find a free game, or maybe maybe there's a game I grabbed on sale. This just happened to be at the top of my downloaded games list to fill the gap. So we get to talk about Alien Rampage. Um, there's a bit of a content warning here because this is a game from the '90s. In case you
Mm-hmm.
in case you can't tell, like it's a game from the mid '90s. So uh, and it's a PC born game. So you're going to get a lot of over the top blood and guts. And I do mean like actual blood and guts. Like all of the enemies here will explode into uh, bloody chunks. You see the various viscera going on here. It's just, compared to today, this is all looks very cartoony.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's not something you'd let your kids worry about. Your kids worry about or play, but it's not something. It's not like The Last of Us 2 or something modern. Where motherfucking game developers are being required or um, very strongly pressured to go look at real world crime scene photos to make sure all of the gory details are as accurate as possible, and causing mental trauma along the way. That is a real thing that happened on The Last of Us 2, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe there's a place for more cartoony, over the top violence in today's world. I'm not saying that doesn't exist or anything, but maybe you don't have to go, go and get the fucking blood spatter photos for your violent video game. Okay, I'm just saying, like, causing mental trauma to your uh, development staff shouldn't really be a thing. I know this is a weird tangent to get on, but I'm just pointing out the terms of violence between then and now. You know, in the '90s, this would have been considered to be an exceptionally gory game. PC games tended to push the envelope here, not just Alien Rampage, but shit like Rise of the Triad comes to mind. It's like that's the game where the bodies would explode, and you sometimes get to see an eyeball pass by.
Yay, eyeballs.
Yeah, or more obvious. The more obvious suspects: Doom, Mortal Kombat. All that shit could be, very violent for the time, but like Doom looks like a cartoon now,
Mhm.
and so on and so forth. You know, what might have been considered realistic graphics, and once again, for 1996. 1995. I've seen differing dates on when this actually came out. This would have been considered to be a more gritty, down to earth, not so much art style, but design aesthetic. Like you'll note a lot of muted colors here, um, a lot of browns, a lot of greens. It looks like an actual jungle. Um, and granted, like the space slug here is, it's got a purple shell. It's not any sort of ridiculous hue. Um, this game is a fair bit grittier than what you would be even getting on the PC at the time in terms of platform games. Because what are the PC platform games that stand out from this time? Your Commander Keens, your Duke Nukem pre 3Ds, your Jazz Jackrabbits. I could go on. Crystal Mines, um, and so on and so forth. So this game is definitely breaking the mold in terms of its aesthetical choices. It's kind of marrying that over the top, um, Mortal Kombat or especially FPS kind of art style with a platform game. Not just a pure platforming game, as you can see from the current footage. This is this is an actual platform, and not just a side-scrolling game that happens to have a bit of jumping in it. There is a difference. We usually call those run and guns. This is a combination of a actual platform game and a run and gun, because you're going to do a lot of running and you're going to do a lot of gunning. So the backstory conceit here is you are legally distinct Predator guy. I know he has an actual name, but I'll be damned if I was actually going to bother remembering it.
It looks a little different from the side. The front view down by your life bar is pretty much just a palette swap, though, and not even much of one.
Yeah. I'm like, we're talking the bare minimum of a distinction here. And, and I'd say the other difference is this, this, not Predator, maybe doesn't favor invisibility so much. I mean, there is an invincibility power up in the game, and it's a vest, but it doesn't last. It's not like the Predator when it was brought to games, and the whole hiding and honor things. That was kind of the core conceit around the Predator. This is the Predator if he were one of the guys from Contra or Metal Slug. Really, your mission is you've crash landed on an alien world. You're not on Earth, apparently, and you're dealing with another hostile race. It's basically survive till the end. That's kind of all you really needed back in the day. Truth be told, even like Commander Keen had more plot, at least backstory, than this. But yeah, your job is to survive and get across. If I'm remembering correctly, I think it's about 30 levels. And so, in another interesting distinction between this game and other popular PC platform games at the time is this is a full game. That is to say, as far as I can tell, you got all of the game at once. It's not
You mean it's not shareware?
Yeah, it's not shareware.
I thought that was. I didn't know that was legally possible in the 90s.
Apparently not. I mean, that might explain. That's probably a really good explanation of one of the reasons why this game is so obscure.
Because you had to pay for it.
Yeah. You had to pay for the whole thing. The distribution model for the, was you release about a third of the game. You have all the good ideas in it, and you entice the suckers to pony up for the rest of the game that may or may not be um, as good or worse than the first episode. I'm looking at you, original Commander Keen series. Like, seriously, episode 1 was fine, but episode 2 and episode 3, fucking shit. The difficulty got cranked up.
Your ammunition recharges. I hadn't noticed that.
For the basic gun, it does.
Yeah, for your
Yeah.
basic
Yeah.
gun. I noticed it going down when you were shooting, but I didn't pay attention to it recharging.
Yeah, that is an aspect we haven't gotten to yet. But you will get up to 7 weapons once again, and once again, there's your PC FPS, another one of those, because carrying 7 weapons, not a thing you really did in a console run gun or even an arcade. Maybe your basic gun and your 1 power up that may or may not last until a certain amount of time or you die. This game handles it in a much more PC platforming sort of way. That is, you've probably seen coins scattered across the level. You collect those coins and you give them to shopkeepers. I believe Petty reached the first one.
Yeah.
And you use the coins to buy ammo. In this case, the next gun up are the homing missiles, which are really useful in this game because you see that looking up. You're going to get a lot of off-screen enemies, especially not so much looking up, but looking down. And there's no looking down option, really. Like, there's a lot of blind jump in this game, and chances are they're probably stuffed with enemies.
Remember, if you can't see the floor, it probably is about to kill you.
Yeah, that's a good attitude to take with this game.
Yep.
Gotta love that pull yourself up grip animation that has just a couple more frames than you really want it to.
Oh yeah. That's absolutely a fucking problem in this game because there are traps or enemies that might lurk around those ledges, and since your pull-up animation is so fucking slow, you will get hit, you will get killed. This has happened.
Yep.
Can you select other weapons by pressing select or some shit?
One, the number of keys.
Yeah.
Yeah, another curious thing is the game here doesn't use a lot of keys. Granted, that's not all that unusual, honestly. But, unfortunately, it doesn't really have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And since you have to cycle through the weapons, it can be a bit tedious to get back to, you don't want to use any more rockets. You want to get back to the laser. You got to cycle through all the weapons. There's no cycle back.
You can just hit whatever button you want on the keyboard.
It actually might as well have been a console game because you can do that on consoles.
Yeah, there's a lot of console quirks in this game that really drag down the experience. The big one is the saving system. This should not have been a thing, but you cannot save everywhere. You cannot save everywhere, and you cannot save everywhere. Why does that matter? Because we're also dealing with PC platforming, game design, level design. You see this level here? It's fucking sprawling. It'll take you about 15 to 20 minutes to complete, which is not that unusual for a PC platforming game. As compensation for having maybe not as tight controls as a console platforming game, they tended to be much larger in scale. And it's not just this game either. Commander Keen games, I remember those levels being really fucking big, among others. That's the fucking norm here. Unfortunately, you could only save in between levels. Oh, there are checkpoints where you can respawn. That's not unusual. Honestly, a lot of PC games had that checkpoint, but you could save anywhere system that I never understood.
That jump sideways while hanging from a rope animation looks super derpy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to the 90s, friend.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, overall, the graphics for this are actually pretty good. That's why I'm teasing them a little bit.
Yeah, they're great.
No, the graphics are absolutely stunning. And the animations, outside of the pull animation being over animated.
I think a lot of the animations are over animated. That one is just way more over animated than most of
Right.
them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like you could tell that the developers here were really flexing what you could do on a PC, what you could do on a PC at this point. Like like you didn't get a lot of PC platforming games that looked like this. There were a few, like Commander Keen 4 and 5 come to mind, and the Jazz Jackrabbit games. You know, I guess the original Commander Keen games also count because that kind of figured out the problem of smooth scrolling, so we could get games like Alien Rampage on the PC in the first place. But it was more like Pharaoh's Tomb and Crystal Caves and so on and so forth than what you got here. This is I'm not gonna lie, the graphics are one of the reasons why I was drawn to this game in the first place. Because, like, I'm going to say it on balance, I think this is one of the best looking platform games of the 90s. Maybe not one of the most well implemented in terms of its animations. Like, a Metal Slug game never gave me problems with its animations.
Yeah, Metal Slug's over animated animations are usually things that don't fucking matter.
Right.
Like the missiles go in friggin' Etano Circus after you fire them and don't have to worry anymore. Or the animation of your body exploding or turning into a mummy or whatever after you're already dead.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't have a hitbox anymore.
Yeah, this game does not take up that that designation. Now the jumping itself, while looking a bit goofy, is actually fairly solid. It's still clunky because keyboard. Keyboards weren't the greatest thing to use on a platform game, but you could get by. And it's got the.
Yeah, I can't think of any reason why you couldn't easily do this with a modern controller. You could probably do just fine. And by modern, I mean like SNES Plus.
You could probably do this game well enough on a Gravis gamepad, as well as you could on a Gravis gamepad, because honestly, that shit wasn't all that good back in the day either.
Like, what do you do to angle your shot up and down?
The number pad. 9, 7, 1, and 3.
Yeah, and you can also aim with the arrow keys.
Well, this one at least locks you into place.
Yeah, you can lock.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'd be better off with a newer controller that has a second. That basically make it a twin stick platformer. However weird that is.
I wouldn't recommend using an analog stick.
You get the idea, though.
They could go Super Metroid style and give you a button to lock your angle.
Yeah,
that would also work.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like you could probably hook that up via DOSBox. The version that's on Steam is DOSBox powered, and is actually compatible with my Xbox One controller here. The problem is its default mapping is to the fucking analog stick. Yeah, that once again, that's not a thing I'm going to do, and I wasn't going to bother with I wasn't going to bother with figuring out how to plug this on a D-pad when I grew up on platform games like this. I know how to play a PC-born platforming game.
Yeah, you see, I don't. So if I was just talking about like in terms of if I was playing.
Right. I get that. I will say I wasn't able to get my preferred control scheme. That's like to use ZXCV. You can it does the. I'm trying to think like apogee setup, or it's like move the arrow keys. Alt is firing, control is jump, tab is weapon cycling, and that kind of thing. Also, for some reason, this platform game doesn't realize how many buttons there are on a keyboard. because it's got some strange design quirks. Like activating platforms instead of having a dedicated use key, you kneel.
Yeah.
I noticed that.
Yeah, I don't get that. I still
Me
don't. Like,
neither.
that's the kind of design choice you make out of limitations. Like, you didn't have
And
enough.
those zombie miners look super weird.
They look super alien.
They look. I was gonna say they look kind of Simpsons.
I can see it. I can see it. Oh, yeah, and there's the checkpoint. So in terms of dying, instead of having, say, lives, this game actually does the Dark Souls system of punishment. A good decade plus before that was ever a thing. That is to say, if you die, you lose a portion of your coins. You can also call that Shovel Knight if you want. I mean, I guess we should really be calling that Alien Rampage, since this game literally did it first.
Well, does this game have the thing where you have to get back to where you died to pick your money back up?
No, it's just you lose money, period. Like, Petty Fan would have lost a portion of his monies there. And it is proportional. Like, if you have, say, 2 coins, which I've had, like right after doing a shop run, it's like I'll be down to 1. Like, the more coins you have, the more bit of proportion you'll lose. But in terms of pure punishment, it's fairly easy. Also worth noting, some monsters respawn, some don't. Like those dinosaur guards, they won't respawn. But like the flying monster bees, those will respawn.
Also, the totally not Koopa Koopas.
Mhm. Yeah. And in regards to the the friendly alien race there, you will sometimes have to break them out of places. But like the first thing that they show you is that these guys are helpful. Not just if you free them, they'll give you coins, but they'll open switches. They'll act as a platform for you and things of that nature. And like a lot of PC platforming games, this game is very riddled with secrets. A lot of hollow walls, a lot of bumping through things. Not sure if there's anything as hidden as, say, a secret level in any of them.
Yes, what about a cow level?
I was gonna make an oblique joke about some sort of secret level with some unusual type of farm animal.
And there are about 3 bosses. Didn't get to any of them because, not gonna lie, the a lot of the problems with this game just kind of built up and up and up until I got into a dedicated platforming section that I kept dying at because it kept asking for precision aiming and precision platforming, on a keyboard. Not an easy thing. And that's just, dealing with the overall level design here. You know, you think that not being able to save is a minor thing, but no, this game is hard as well. Even on like the lower difficulties, it's gonna stomp your ass pretty thoroughly, which once again was very much the style at the time. In fact, from my research, this game is pretty renowned for being difficult. And at the end of the day, I really wanted to like this game. It's got a lot going for it. And I would say ultimately it is a bit of a hidden gem. But it's got too many problems for me to say it's anything more than solid in most respects. Like, just a lot of dumb design choices that vacuum may not be a whole bunch, but it's just, it adds up to a very aggravating play of game. Not to mention that 90s PC platforming games just normally tend to be very awkward and gangly. compared to their console counterparts. Like, I'll note that the platform games we get on PCs, where do they take their inspiration most of the time? Not PC platform games of the 90s. Now, for our longtime viewers, yes, we did review the Rad Rogers game, which actually did try to emulate this style of game and was similarly awkward and annoying to fucking play. It's just, this is not my favorite design, but that's a subjective thing. In terms of its of the time context, this is perfectly serviceable PC level design. Maybe a bit above some of the other, like something that was pumped out by Apogee. But it's, once again, I still cannot get over the fact that you can't save anywhere. Like, that is a thing that would have gotten this game eviscerated, no pun intended, by PC game players, because saving anywhere was a PC feature. That's what you did. Checkpoints, that was for the console kids. I'm not joking about this, by the way. I have known PC fanatics who absolutely hated console style saving. Like,
user-friendly stuff is for people who are.
Now, granted, there might be a reason why a JRPG has its save points versus a PC RPG or what have you. But yeah, in this case, this didn't make any fucking sense. These levels aren't short. It's also like, if you want to go and do something else, you got something else to do, you can't save in the middle of a level. That's always a bad thing.
I think the reason they do it in JRPGs involves reducing the amount of information that needs to be recorded in.
Yeah, once again,
in the position part of the save.
It's related to difficulty as well. Like, I can tell you that, because remember, on an overworld map, you can save anywhere, but when you get into a dungeon, you can only save at certain points, because that is taken into account the difficulty of the. But we can talk design more. Okay, getting to the game itself, pricing. So the game is fairly cheap at this point. It being a 20 or so year old game. It is available on Steam for $4.99, and it's got a GOG version for $5.99. Don't know what's behind that exactly.
It may be a non-DOS box type of remake thing, because I think GOG generally doesn't use DOS box unless they have to.
It could be, yeah. Generally, GOG releases are going to be more stable and better supported than Steam versions. Since this is DOSBox, that's a bit moot. And for $5, this is an easy recommendation. I'm not as high on the game as I wanted to be, but it's still a solid PC platforming game. And once again, it's a cut above a good many of them. It's just, I wouldn't put it in the same position as, say, Commander Keen 4 or 5, my favorite PC platforming games. Really the platforming games that I think that really got that PC design and as well as, good controls, about as much as you could do on the PC at that point. Granted, never played the Jazz Rabbit games. There's always going to be holes in your library of play. I'm like, but it's like, this is definitely upper echelons, but not the legendary pantheon of that particular genre. Still worth a purchase to this day. If you're not turned off by the violence as well, because once again, it's not realistic core depictions, but it's still fairly over the top. It's fairly detailed stuff.
Though there is a thing in the
Not
options to
even-
turn it off
you
if
know,
you don't like
if
it.
you're offended by the exploding viscera, look elsewhere.
Well, you can also turn it off in the settings.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was another popular feature, parental controls. And like, I'd say that would do a disservice. Just look at what this game is going for here. It's kind of meant to be a homage or love letter ripoff, if you will, of over the top 80s action movies, especially Predator. And they had that kind of violence as well. Like,
Hmm.
any other questions or comments on Alien Rampage? All right, then. So that'll about do it for this week. This week's reviews. The week ahead. Let's see. Coming up on the Wednesday show, November 11th, we'll be having Carson Compton of Carson Compton Games. One man studio. We'll be talking about his latest release, Stealthscape, of which we are also planning to review that week. So next week. And on November 13th, yes, we do have a Friday show this week. We'll be having Piotr Gnip. I'm probably mispronouncing that. Of Walkabout Games. So that is what we are doing this week. So until when, and I would expect a episode of Last News Desk on the Left as well. Thankfully, our episode recorded last Wednesday. So until Wednesday, I shall wish you good gaming.